You can't come in." "Excuse me?" I changed the locks. I stared at my own front door like it had just betrayed me. "You changed the what?" "The locks, Mom. This is my house now." My house. The house I wired $480,000 for, the house I co-signed, the house I renovated, the house where I still had my name on the mortgage paperwork, and my 32-year-old son was standing there like I was some stranger knocking for directions. "My name is on this property," I said calmly. He crossed his arms. "Technically, but I live here." "Technically? I paid for it. You live in it. There's a difference." "My name is Lorraine Mitchell. I'm 71 years old. Widow, retired commercial property investor, 3 decades in real estate, 0 tolerance for disrespect, and apparently 1 entitled son." Let me rewind. 3 years ago, my son Caleb came to me with tears in his eyes. "Mom, I found the perfect place, but the bank won't approve me without a cosigner." Of course they wouldn't. He had inconsistent income and expensive taste. But he was my son, so I didn't just cosign, I wired the down payment, paid for renovations, covered closing costs, told him, "Build equity, build discipline, don't embarrass me." He laughed. "Mom, I'm not a kid." First year, fine. Second year, he upgraded his car. Third year, he started talking different. You know that tone people get when they start believing their own hype. "Mom, I need space." "Space? I'm building my own life." "Good, build it. Just don't forget who poured the foundation." Then, one afternoon, I showed up unannounced. Not dramatic, just dropping off documents. Key didn't work. Thought it jammed. Tried again. Nothing. That's when he opened the door halfway. "You should have called." "Why can't I get in?" He hesitated. I changed the locks. Like it was normal, like mothers get locked out daily. "Excuse me?" I said slowly. "I just need boundaries." "Boundaries? You live in a house funded by my retirement portfolio." He stepped outside and shut the door behind him. "I'm serious, Mom. You can't just come and go." "Oh, we're playing that game?" "You think this is yours?" I asked. "It is mine." "No, it's yours until paperwork says otherwise." And here's the thing he forgot. I don't operate emotionally. I operate contractually. And the mortgage was still underwritten by North Valley Community Bank. Small, regional lender, aggressive portfolio growth, heavy exposure in residential loans. I knew the type, because I used to invest in banks. Quietly, strategically, patiently. That night, I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I didn't argue. I went home, pulled out the original documents, and started reading. Because when someone changes locks, you don't break windows, you check leverage. And guess what I found? The bank wasn't in great shape. Overextended on adjustable rate exposure, high loan concentration in a declining zip code. And guess who held a large amount of liquid capital just sitting in conservative bonds? Me. 3 weeks later, I scheduled a private meeting, not with my son, but with the bank's executive board. But before I tell you what I did in that boardroom, let me ask you something. If your own child locked you out of a house you paid for, would you fight emotionally or financially? Because I chose financially, and my son had no idea he wasn't just messing with his mother. He was messing with someone who understood acquisition strategy. Let me tell you something about power. The loud kind? It slams doors. The quiet kind? It signs paperwork. And I've never been the loud type. 3 weeks after my son changed those locks, I walked into North Valley Community Bank like I was opening a checking account. Pearl earrings, navy blazer, calm face. The receptionist smiled. "Do you have an appointment?" "Oh, yes," I said sweetly, "with your board." Her smile twitched. Now understand something. Small regional banks, they survive on community relationships and investor confidence. And I wasn't just some retired grandma. I owned commercial real estate shares, municipal bond portfolios, private equity in 2 medical plazas, liquid capital north of 8 figures, and more importantly, I knew how struggling banks think. North Valley had a problem. Interest rates were rising, loan defaults were ticking up, their capital ratios were getting uncomfortable. I'd been watching them for months. Not because of Caleb, just because I track markets like other women track soap operas. But when he locked me out, it stopped being business curiosity. It became opportunity. Inside the boardroom sat 5 men and 1 woman, all suits, all nervous smiles. "Miss Mitchell," the chairman said, "we understand you're interested in a substantial position." "I am," I replied, "controlling, preferably." Silence. They shifted in their seats. I slid a folder across the table. Structured capital injection proposal, preferred shares, convertible rights, board voting power. I wasn't buying a savings account. I was buying influence. "Why us?" one executive asked carefully. I smiled. "Because you need liquidity." Never insult a bank, just state facts softly. They knew their exposure levels. They knew their stock was undervalued. They knew larger institutions were circling. I wasn't a threat. I was a rescue. Within 10 days, negotiations closed, capital wired, voting shares issued, 2 board seats secured, including 1 for me. I didn't buy the whole bank outright. I bought enough to matter. And sometimes that's more powerful. Meanwhile, my son was posting backyard BBQ photos like he owned the world. Caption, "Finally building something that's mine." Mine, that word again. A month later, the bank sent routine compliance letters to borrowers. Standard review, loan-to-value reassessment, refinancing conditions adjusted under new capital oversight. Nothing illegal, nothing targeted, just policy tightening. Guess whose adjustable rate mortgage got flagged for review? Yep. Caleb called me 2 days later. "Mom, did you hear the bank is restructuring loans?" "Oh," I said casually, "that happens." "They're asking for updated income verification." "Then provide it." He hesitated. "You know my income fluctuates." I sipped my tea. "Well, that's unfortunate." A week later, he showed up at my door. Didn't knock gently this time. He pounded. I opened it slowly. "What do you want?" "They're raising my monthly payment." "Interest rates do that." "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." He froze because something in my tone shifted. "You locked me out, remember?" His jaw tightened. "This isn't about that." "No," I agreed softly. "It's about leverage." He stared at me. "Wait, you didn't—" I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just held eye contact. "You bought the bank?" "Controlling interest." Silence. Then, "You're kidding." "Do I look like I'm joking?" Here's the part people misunderstand. I didn't change his locks. I didn't threaten eviction. I didn't scream about disrespect. I simply ensured that every financial decision touching that property required stricter compliance. And Caleb? Well, Caleb was not financially disciplined. His mortgage rate adjusted, his payment increased, his refinancing options narrowed, because under new board direction, risk profiles were tightened. Community Stability Initiative, we called it. Sounded responsible, because it was. 2 months later, he called again, voice different, less arrogance. "Mom, I might need help restructuring." There it was, that crack, that small fracture in pride. "You told me you needed boundaries," I reminded him. "I do." "Then manage your house." Silence. Then quietly, "I messed up." Ah, now we're speaking truth. But here's where it gets deeper, because this wasn't about revenge, it was about principle. You don't disrespect the hand that built your foundation, not without consequences. And yet, despite everything, he was still my son, and mothers carry a weakness, even when we carry power. 3 days later, I walked into that same house with a new key. Not because I forced entry, because he handed it to me. No speeches, no drama, just quiet humility. "You win," he muttered. I looked around. I wasn't competing. But the story doesn't end there, because buying the bank, that was only the first move. What I did next changed our relationship forever and cost him something far more painful than money. If your child disrespected you publicly, would you forgive privately or teach them a lesson they'd never forget? Because I chose the second one, and he never saw it coming. "You humiliated me." That's what Caleb said the next time we sat across from each other. Humiliated him? He changed the locks on his 71-year-old mother. But sure, let's talk about humiliation. We were sitting at the kitchen island. Yes, the same one I paid extra to have imported quartz installed. He looked tired. Not broke, not ruined, just rattled. Good. Rattled means reflection is starting. "Mom, you didn't have to buy the bank." "I didn't buy it because of you." He blinked. "You didn't?" "No," I said calmly. "I bought it because it was undervalued and poorly capitalized." Pause. "You just happened to benefit from my timing." That stung him worse, because it meant he wasn't powerful enough to trigger my decisions. He was just a variable. Let's get something straight. I did not ruin my son. I did not call his loan in. I did not sabotage him. All I did was remove the cushion. And when you remove a cushion from someone who's been falling upward their whole life, they finally feel gravity. "You think I'm irresponsible," he said. "I think you're entitled." Silence. Big difference. Irresponsible can be fixed with discipline. Entitlement? That's a mindset. And mindset doesn't change until something cracks it. He rubbed his face. "I just wanted space." "You had space." "No, I mean space from feeling like I owed you." There it was. That sentence told me everything. "You think my help was control." He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's what children don't understand about strong parents. When we help, we're not keeping score. We're protecting trajectory. But if you mistake protection for pressure, you start resenting the ladder you're climbing. "You never let me fail," he said quietly. I leaned back. "You're right." That surprised him. I didn't. Because I knew his weaknesses. I knew his spending habits. I knew his inconsistency. So I overcompensated. I stabilized. I buffered. I insulated. And in doing so, I accidentally prevented growth. Buying the bank wasn't revenge. It was correction. Correction for both of us. But here's where the story shifts. Because after the compliance review, the board made a new strategic move. We started tightening underwriting standards across high-risk borrowers. It wasn't personal, it was fiscal responsibility. Caleb's mortgage wasn't the only one under review. Several homeowners struggled, and that didn't sit right with me because power tests you too, not just the person who disrespected you. So I proposed something new in the next board meeting, a homeowner financial education initiative. Mandatory budgeting workshops for adjustable rate borrowers, refinance eligibility tied to course completion, incentives for improved credit discipline. The board loved it. Safer portfolio, stronger clients. And suddenly, this wasn't about my son anymore. It was about community stability. When I told Caleb about the program, he frowned. "You're making me take a class? I'm giving you tools. I'm 32 and financially reactive." He exhaled hard, but he enrolled, reluctantly. 3 weeks later, something unexpected happened. He stopped arguing, stopped blaming, started asking questions about interest curves, about amortization, about liquidity ratios. The arrogance softened. Curiosity replaced it. That's when I knew the lesson was landing. One evening, he showed up at my house, not pounding this time, just knocking. When I opened the door, he held something out, the original key. Not because he had to, because he chose to. "You were never the outsider," he said quietly. I took the key. Didn't cry, didn't hug, just nodded. Respect doesn't need theatrics. But I still had one more move, and this one wasn't financial. It was structural. I transferred the mortgage fully into his name, refinanced under improved terms, removed myself as cosigner, removed leverage, removed control. He looked shocked when I told him, "You're stepping back?" "Yes." "After everything?" "Yes." He swallowed. "Why?" "Because now you understand what it costs. And if he failed again, it would be his fall, not mine." That's the difference between revenge and wisdom. Revenge holds power. Wisdom releases it. A month later, the bank stabilized stronger than before. Capital ratios improved, loan defaults decreased, community confidence increased. And me? I had a new title, Vice Chairwoman. Not because of ego, because of strategy. Caleb invited me to dinner one night. First time he'd hosted without defensiveness. Halfway through the meal, he said, "I didn't change the locks because I hate you. I know. I changed them because I felt small." That sentence hit deeper than anything else. Small. Not independent, not empowered. Small. You weren't small. You were untested. And life has a way of testing everyone eventually. Some of us just get tested through contracts instead of crises. So now let me ask you something. If your child tried to push you out of something you built, would you fight to stay in control or teach them how to stand without you? Because I learned something through all this. Buying the bank was easy. Raising a man who doesn't resent your strength, that's harder. And the story isn't over, because 6 months later, he made a decision that surprised even me, one that proved whether he truly learned or just adapted temporarily. It was 6:42 a.m. I was in my kitchen, barefoot, coffee in hand, watching the sun hit the lake behind my house. The same lake I stared at the night my son locked me out. And then, knock, knock, knock. Not soft, not polite, desperate. I didn't rush. I already knew. I opened the door. There he was. Ethan, unshaven, hoodie wrinkled, eyes red like he hadn't slept in days. And behind him, Claire, mascara streaked, arms crossed, ego shattered. He didn't even say hi. He just said, "Mom, please." I stepped aside, calm. "Come in." They walked in like guests in my world now. Not owners, not superior, not entitled. Guests. He looked around my house. Solid oak floors, original art, silence, stability. He swallowed hard. "Mom, the bank, they're saying foreclosure." I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah, that's how banks work." Claire snapped. "You did this." I smiled slightly. No, sweetheart. I protected my investment. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. They froze our accounts. We can't access anything. They won't negotiate. They said the terms are final. I tilted my head. Those were the terms you signed. Silence. Claire whispered, "We didn't know." I cut her off. "You didn't read." That's when it hit him. His eyes changed. "Mom?" His voice dropped. "You own it, don't you?" I held his gaze. "I own the institution that owns your loan." He stepped back like I slapped him. Claire just stared. You bought the bank?" I nodded slowly. "Controlling interest." The room went quiet, and for the first time in his life, my son looked small. He sank into the chair. "I thought you'd just go away." I let that sit. "I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 3 jobs. I built investment portfolios while packing your school lunches. I learned how money works because no one was going to protect us." My voice stayed steady. "But you thought I was just old." Claire tried to speak. "We didn't mean—" I raised my hand. "You changed the locks on a house I paid for." Ethan's voice cracked. "I was scared. Claire said—" Claire snapped, "Don't blame me." There it was. Cracks, blame, fear, no unity. And they thought they were ready to run a $2 million property? He leaned forward. "What do you want?" That question. That's when you know power shifted. Not "how could you?" Not "why did you?" What do you want? I stood up. "I don't want revenge." They both looked surprised. "I want accountability." I walked to the window. "You humiliated me. You treated me like I was disposable." I turned back. "So here are your options." They sat up. Option 1, the bank proceeds with foreclosure. You lose the house, your credit is destroyed for the next decade. Claire inhaled sharply. Option 2, you refinance under new terms. Lower house value, you sell the property, pay back what you owe, start over in something you can actually afford. Ethan whispered, "And you?" "I walk away with my capital protected." Claire asked carefully, "And if we choose neither?" I smiled slightly. "Then the board votes next Monday." Ethan's shoulders dropped. "Mom, I'm sorry." And this time, it wasn't strategic. It wasn't manipulative. It was raw. I got greedy. When the market jumped and the appraisal hit higher, Claire kept saying we deserved more, that you were holding us back. Claire flinched. "I didn't." He looked at her. "You did." Silence. He looked back at me. "I forgot who built the foundation." That one hit, harder than the lock ever did. 3 days later, they signed the refinance and sale agreement. They downsized, moved into a modest townhouse. No lake view, no bragging rights, no illusion, just reality. And me? I never moved back in. I didn't need to. That house was never about the walls. It was about respect. It's funny how a year changes people. Ethan came over last Sunday, alone, brought groceries, fixed my porch light without being asked, didn't talk about money once. Before he left, he said, "I didn't lose the house, Mom." I raised an eyebrow. "No?" "I lost my ego." Now that was worth more than $2 million. Let me tell you something. Never mistake silence for weakness, never mistake age for ignorance, and never assume the woman who built the foundation doesn't own the ground you're standing on. They changed the locks, so I changed the ownership. And the lesson? You can disrespect me, but you will not erase me.